We're together this evening to really talk about the Community Conversation 2026. It has been my great honor as superintendent to be out in our community for two Listen and Learn Community of Lawrence Public Schools campaigns, both in 2025 and in 2026. And I'm privileged and honored to bring this report this evening. We'll just move pretty quickly through what we heard in the report, and then I'm looking forward to the conversation of the board members. Our team is ready to grab notes, and this is just the beginning of processing all of that great information. Here is, just as a reminder, back to winter of 2026, community conversations that count. And we know that listening and learning through connection and conversation are among the most important and informative steps for continuous improvement work in the Lawrence Public Schools. I probably said it 100 times, but I believe it so deeply, and that is that the premise of a community conversation is no one knows better. Our strengths and our celebrations, our challenges and our areas for improvement. No one knows that better than the students, our families, our staff who make up the Lawrence Public Schools community and the wider community, our community organizations, our business partners out in the community who support us. So we always want to hear from you. We use 4 methods to collect information during this campaign. A traditional survey, which was just simply check the box, and we did that online, had about 600 responses. We also convened in-person gatherings. I appreciate that members of my team were in actual face-to-face student group conversations, and we did those across every middle school and high school and program location in the district. I'd like to dive into that more on another night because I want members, for you to be able to hear the actual words of our students. They're very fascinating. And then finally, because we know there are folks who just want to write to us, we offered an open-ended inquiry. And I love Lawrence for so many reasons, but I love that almost 500 people wrote to us their extended thoughts, and some of those were quite lengthy. So this sharing tonight is a compilation of both the traditional survey, the group in person, and then also the open-ended written responses. We're using this progression. We asked, we heard, we are doing. That's our process. Here are the number of participants. You can see about 1,400 overall. It will be an express priority of ours to begin to build those response numbers. I've been so grateful for every single person who, as busy as their lives are, they still come out and talk to us or respond to a survey, but we want to get those numbers up. When you think about 10,000 students and the parents behind those students, families, and you think about our staff, this is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 10%. So we really like to have the goal next year to at least double that participation rate. What do the participants look like? Well, about half of respondees checked that they were most closely affiliated with an elementary school or a preschool, so that's about half. And then the other half of the respondents were equally divided among middle and high school. So I was really happy to see that kind of balanced response. We want to talk a little bit about key indicators. We are really looking at members. You have the full long survey responses. When you get to it, it'll be there for you. But we've drawn out tonight some key inquiries to just kind of hold up. And those responses to open-ended inquiries often will shed more context or more color on the short answer responses. So you'll see that as we move through. We looked at primary indicators that focus on both our effectiveness and levels of satisfaction in crucial areas: educational program and critical mission, teaching and learning, school safety, that feeling of welcome, belonging, and care, responsiveness and communication, and overall levels of satisfaction. So we heard. Here's what we heard. I always refer to this question as the one question, and that is, how would you rate your overall level of satisfaction at this school? And overall, out of all of our responses, we have a 76% overall level of satisfaction, meaning those folks indicated they were satisfied or very satisfied. Now let's break that down a little bit lower. 70, not quite 71% from parents, and then not quite 82% in staff, for an overall rating of 76%. A closely related question: how satisfied are you with your child's overall happiness at this school? I love this question. School and classrooms should be a place of joy. We believe that with all our hearts. And our rate here with families, 66% responded favorably that they were satisfied or very satisfied with the overall rates of happiness. Closely affiliated with that, how satisfied are you with the way school staff show dignity and kindness towards students? About 72% from among our families noted they were satisfied or very satisfied with the way we show dignity and kindness towards students. Now, we took this one and also brought it over to the staff survey, and you can see the question for the staff was, how satisfied are you that students and staff members treat each other with dignity and respect? And that rating is very close, about 4 percentage points in the same range, satisfied or very satisfied with the way students and staff show dignity and respect. We know that this is the first year that we've given this survey as it stands, and so this will be our baseline year. In my leadership career, I've very much paid attention to year over year on seminal measures, and I look forward to doing that here in Lawrence Public Schools. We talk about dignity, kindness, respect, satisfaction, effectiveness all the time, and yet it's our stakeholders, our constituents, who will be able to indicate whether we're achieving those goals or not. There are a myriad of questions. We'll move quickly, but question at the top of that slide: how satisfied are you with how well teachers support and care for students? And I'm really proud, not surprised, but proud, 78% of families report they are satisfied or very satisfied with the support and care from teachers for our students. At the bottom of that slide, an area that we have already marked, as the board is well aware, our resources and support that we provide to address students' social, emotional, behavioral, and mental health. And our baseline data at 59%. So we'll be continuing to focus in that area. How satisfied are you with the level of safety at this school? Among our families, 67%. And then among our staff, 69%. So very close on that feedback from both staff and families. Overall quality of education. How would you rate the overall quality of the education at this school? 61% indicating satisfied or very satisfied. As you all know, members, we are working on a complete reset We know we've had great work going on, but we are resetting our systems for instruction and for our educational programs. So we'll continue to monitor that data. Question number 1 in teaching and learning: how satisfied are you with the extent to which teachers set high expectations? 64%. We know high expectations is one of the essential elements of quality instruction. How satisfied are you with academic support, and how satisfied are you with the level of academic challenge? Both of those areas that we'll put a flag in, and you will see our strategic planning coming forward continues to have those areas as a priority. We're zeroing in here to academic challenge. And you can see not only the 56% rating, but we also see that 24% who indicated dissatisfaction with the level of academic challenge. We see the survey and the engagement of a conversation as a mirror in which we see our progress, and this is information we hear and will be responding to in our work. Academic challenge from staff, you can see is just want to go back 56, it's a little bit higher, 67% among staff. Student support and relationships. I love these 2 questions. How satisfied are you that students have access to a person, teacher, counselor, or other staff member to help them with a school-related problem? 71% of parents satisfied or very satisfied. Secondly, that students would have a person to help them with a personal problem. Data there is just a little bit lower at 64%. Support and care, that top question here is one of the highest ratings of any of the questions we ask. How satisfied are you with how well teachers support and care for students? 78%. We know our teachers care. I'm just so proud that our families understand how much our teachers care. And then meeting learning needs, that second metric there. And then resources and supports for emotional and mental health. You can see there our data tells us what we know. It confirms what we know, that we have opportunities for growth there. I loved this piece in terms of how satisfied were you, parent, with the responsiveness from your teacher, and that metric at 80%. Did you feel your teacher was courteous when you had a concern? That metric at 85%. Would place that metric alongside any organization anywhere at 80 and 85%, and then helpful is at 79%. Let's look at our open-ended responses. We really looked at emergent themes in this massive data set. Folks wrote us a lot of words, and so we looked at all of them from emergent responses. Under the question, what areas are going well that we should continue to strengthen? 3 areas came right to the top: teacher quality and dedication. Secondly, that sense of belonging. Students, staff, and families talked about their feelings of being welcomed in their schools and that there is a feeling of belonging. And then thirdly, folks recognized and have noticed the improvements with communication in terms of school communication and receiving the one tool, Parent Square, for their communications. Where do we have opportunities for growth and improvement? Communicating more about our academic program, enhancing our enrichment and opportunities for student post-secondary success. We know this, the board has been committed. I appreciate the work that has occurred, but we see that our families and our staff noted as well, teacher and staff compensation. And then thirdly, more consistent behavior and policy enforcement. We dug in a little deeper on that and really found the lightning rod inside of that data was about cell phones. So pretty fascinating. We'll talk more about that in a few minutes. Strategic themes from the open-ended responses among parents, desire for competitive teacher and staff compensation, more consistent behavior, discipline, and policy enforcement, and then, as we've heard from our parents in the past, continuing concerns about the amount of screen time students experience at school. This third pattern was really focused among parents of younger students, although it is a trend throughout PK-12. Top themes among staff, competitive compensation, a desire for curriculum coherence. Our staff is really hungry for this system for teaching and learning, and I appreciate that. And then thirdly, that desire for more consistent behavior, discipline, and policy enforcement. I love the themes among students. We heard concerns about the flow of their daily schedule. And this had everything from start times to lunch times, a lot of energy around how many minutes in the passing period, and just those functional, logistical parts of getting through their day. Secondly, students also mirrored a desire for more consistent behavior, discipline, and policy enforcement, and they refer to it as fairness, that they want to feel like everyone's being treated fairly, and in a lot of cases, they mean the same. That's enough. And then thirdly, I'm so proud of our students, a strong desire for more academic challenge and opportunities. Last thing we wanted to note, and then I'll look forward to the board's discussion, as we dive deeper into this, and members, I sent you a note today, we just keep digging deeper and finding more nuance. Each theme has nuance inside of it. So we'll keep digging and sharing more of that as we go through these weeks of summer. But on technology, families, that really emerges as concern about screen time. Among staff, it emerges more around classroom struggles over devices and frustration with particular tools that may or may not be working perfectly. Thirdly, students share concerns about technology around specific tools that may not be their favorite. Some high school students shared more about how different teachers may prefer different tools, and so they have to become adept with a number of tools across their classrooms. And they also, quite frankly, don't think they should have to use some tools. And so that's fascinating. Secondly, with academic challenge, families, of course, want their students to be challenged. They want that to occur on all the ends of the spectrum with regard to student abilities. Staff really are driving toward curricula coherence so that they have a higher level of confidence in what was taught before and what is going to be taught after that curricular alignment. K-12 students want to be treated, this is powerful, as being capable of more. They want less repetitive work, more hands-on and real-world learning, and more advanced course options. And you can see Dr. Maya and all of our team, we've been working on exactly that concern. Finally, compensation and staffing also emerges with nuance. Concern about stability for the child is how that comes out with families, being able to attract the very best, being able to have substitutes when we need them. Staff, of course, it would naturally be about their personal economic well-being. And then students, the concern is around staffing capacity to handle the responsibilities of the staff role at school. It will feel like maybe an abrupt end, but we just wanted to take a quick dive into the data from this year, and we wanted to end on this pervasive theme throughout all of the data, every data set that we have. One message was consistent: Lawrence teachers are exceptional. Families describe them as the reason they stay. Staff describe talented, dedicated colleagues. Students praise their teachers as knowledgeable, engaging, and personally invested in their success. When you listen to student groups, they often call teachers by name and talk about the strong and powerful impact that specific teachers have had on their academic careers. Families, you can see the quotes there: the teachers are the strength of the school. And then staff express deep collegial care and a strong sense of shared purpose. And then students praise them as knowledgeable, engaging, and personally invested. Tonight, we just scratched the surface. We attached both the public survey, the family survey, and the staff survey. All of it is public. We've attached that to your document this evening. You can fall into that and stay for a long time. President Gordon Ross, I'm ready if there are any questions. I will qualify before the questions that Mr. James Polk had to be out of state tonight, and so you've got me and the folks behind me, so thank you.
Dr. Swift, thank you for this report. But I really appreciate the students taking the time to do the survey. So I just did some quick math here. And so out of the students that were surveyed, I have about 70 students from the high school and 70 students from the middle schools all took part in the survey. But I saw where the students are asking for more challenging curriculum or more challenges. But it was evident to me, and I'm going to assume some of my board colleagues noticed this at the graduations, that if you look at the glaring differences between Free State High School and Lawrence High School, there were certainly more students of, I didn't see a good representation of students of color who were represented at the Honor Society level at the Lawrence High School. So I'm just wondering who these students are, who these students were, who they are, the ones that took the time to do the survey for the high school and middle school. So I would like to know, if these are the students that are asking for a challenging curriculum, or maybe these are the ones that could greatly benefit from challenging curriculums, such as Lawrence High School, where we really need more representation of students of color getting recognized for their academic performance. That's the best way I can put it.
I appreciate that. We'll make a note of that. Great question. I will ask Kristen Ryan and Kylie Luckett on another day. I've already put the flag in with them that I wanted them to come and share more insights from the conversations so that we could color that in more.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Swift. I appreciate the report and kind of seeing the spectrum of data across staff, students, and families all together. I think the differing perspectives it's very informative and interesting. I also appreciate the comment that you made that this is kind of baseline data for us because this is the first time we've done this particular set of surveys this way. I was kind of curious because one of the things I noticed is that we had, with the exception of a few questions, we had a fairly consistent range of percentages of people who were dissatisfied or very dissatisfied, right? Yeah. So I was curious as to what is a typical negative survey response rate look like on surveys like this? And just quick Google search, typically you see a 15 to 20% negative response rate amongst parents in K-12 satisfaction surveys. Sometimes staff surveys can be as high as 20 to 30%. I wanted to share that as context because while I would very much like to see improvements in our data year over year, it seems to me that with that background knowledge, that we're starting in a good place in many, if not most, or the vast majority of the metrics that we are measuring, and that the place where we maybe have the most likely room for improvement would be moving those people who don't have strong feelings one way or the other, who are in that neutral category, moving them over into satisfied and very satisfied. And so, I see that as probably, from my perspective, the place where we will be able to make some impact in really improving that deeper connection of our parents and students and staff with the work that the district is doing. So thank you again. I appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
Matt.
So I agree with what you said that it's a strong showing of participation for now, and obviously want to get the numbers up for next year, kind of to what you mentioned, Carol. But I wanted to point out specifically, I was impressed. I can't say most for sure, but most of what I saw in those scales, the neutral response outweighed both of the dissatisfied and very dissatisfied. In my experience, folks that aren't sure what to put or that they just don't care about that particular question are, more likely to put neutral. So to me, that was pretty overwhelmingly positive that if you combine the satisfied, very satisfied, and the neutral responses, I think of like a Yelp review or something, right, where people are more likely to go and write if they're mad about something. So I thought that was super encouraging. I really appreciated, I think it was the families when it came to academic challenge, like that response, talking about focusing on the polls of capability and whatnot. That's something I always come back to is we do dedicate so much time to your, I'm just pulling numbers out, right, but your top 10%, your bottom 10%, what are we doing for that middle 80? And I think a lot of what you talked about at the very beginning in terms of those post-secondary outcomes and the options that are becoming available to our students help to address that. But I really resonated with that comment. I'm just going through the notes that I took here really briefly. If I had any input on, to Shannon's comment about, and your comment about this being baseline data, I do really like what the new leader over at LMH Health has done as part of our annual organizational goals. They really are just better this year than last. It's not trying to make big sweeping changes to every single thing that comes up, but if we can just do a little bit better each year than the last, that can be enough in a lot of cases. I also liked the format of going out and listening to people and all the different ways that you gave people to get involved, and would welcome that opportunity to tag up or have us join for that in the future. Just to be part of the conversation as well. The cell phone comment, I know that was a salient example of the enforcement of policy and whatnot. I can't remember, was that from the family side, the student side, or the staff side, or some combination therein?
A combination of all three. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, yeah, obviously there's, new things coming about cell phones, and enforcement of policy and fairness and all that is true. And then I would also ask who bought the cell phones when they come to school. The final thing that I wanted to point out is that I feel like what I noticed in the data was that not the most negative, because the responses were really encouraging, but the areas that we scored less highly seem to be those areas in which schools are being asked to provide more and more and more of those those wraparound services, and increasingly, being asked to provide more and more with less, as Shannon and others have pointed out in terms of our state and federal support. So those are all the notes that I took, but that was honestly overall, like my summary would be, that was super encouraging. And the things, like you said, that Dr. Amaya is working on, that we're working on with family engagement, screen time, technology, all those things are things that we're already doing. So it's encouraging to see that that's the correct direction to be focusing efforts. So
Thank you.
sorry, Mr. President, that was long.
Thank you.
Kelly? So I want to echo a bit of what Carol said. I would like to know more about the individuals who took the survey and what we can glean from any characteristics people might share, both those who are satisfied and those that are not, to understand, is there specific targeted outreach that we should be doing to increase satisfaction in the spaces that we are looking at. So I appreciated your comments on that. I also was wondering about now that we have the baseline, have you developed benchmarks for where you want to go in the future? And I think we heard some of that from Shannon and Matt, so would appreciate knowing, where do you want to go? What does that look like? Sometimes the district has set goals that were maybe too ambitious. Sometimes they underwhelmed me. So I would like to know what that sweet spot is and how you guys develop that for future endeavors. And then I guess the other thing that occurs to me when I look at these particular surveys is more around, and since Dr. Polk is not here, I'll reserve some of these questions, but the survey development is interesting to me. When I think about some of the other surveys that we utilize in the district, and am curious whether the EPIC survey is still underway.
It is.
And then wondering about whether or not we're surveying at the building level. So that as a principal, when you are looking at these data, how are you all thinking about the spaces where they overlap and where they don't? Because to me, that might tell us a little bit about who's taking this survey.
Right.
And so, or who's motivated to and who can't access this survey. So a principal might be very good at making the space for all students or more students that don't normally participate in this type of activity to do that. And it makes me, as a board member, think through all the questions that might flow from how satisfied are you with the level of safety at the school, which is a very important pressing question for this board, because it could be those loaded things at a national level. It could be things pertaining to bullying, gun violence in our districts, and it might just well be that particular building, what's happening in terms of access to that building, et cetera. So there's a lot of more curiosity that's happened from this survey for me, and wondering how you all will use this data in coordination with the other spaces where we're asking some very similar questions.
Right.
And have different responses, I think. So it really does make you wonder who's taking this survey. And then if you're going to set benchmarks from it, does it align with the other data that we're collecting in the district, if that makes sense? So
Yes.
The questions, I'm assuming, were developed in-house, or are they based on?
They are part of some pretty standard questions
Okay.
that are used across the country, and the former company was K-12 Insight.
Okay.
That did a really good job with that. They've now sold in it, and we've gotten some help from Sogalytics. But we didn't sit down and develop them, but we did select them from.
And I think as an individual, I have to be mindful of my negative bias. So I look at some of this and think, oh my goodness, that we're talking 30% of people are not at a space where I want them to be at for some of these places that we're hoping to achieve. And that's a huge leap, and it's helpful to contextualize it around the national data that we see for these responses. But, and also helpful to hear from my colleagues around the balanced thinking around what you see as being really positive indicators for our district. So appreciate the work, and I'm always glad to look at how people are viewing their experiences with our schools so that we can do better and be better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. My question is more around, it's always great to collect information. My question then is, how do we tie it back to what are we going to do with it, other than we've got the percentages, that's great, but it's, where does it end up? We can set benchmarks, which we need to do, but again, how is it going to affect the decisions we're making?
Yes.
And when I look at this, and in the Lawrence community, where our community strives for input, it's kind of shocking that when we do a survey such as this, we don't get a much larger turnout of responses to me, because in this community, everyone screams, we want to have input. And this is the perfect opportunity to have that input. But usually for me, where I always come down to is, what's the outcome? And I think that's what people look at, is where do we end up? Do we have a plan as to how we're going to use this or integrate this into our data streams?
Yes, so I really appreciate that question, and my answer won't be a fully complete one, but this data will lead directly into our next report this evening, our end of school year report, and then directly into strategic planning in July. So my hope is that we regularly connect what our folks said to what we're doing, so that everyone understands we don't just ask, we ask and we hear and we do. That's the dot we hope to connect, the dots. Yeah. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, all right, thank you, Dr. Swift.
Thank you.
All right.